About Ruben Amorim is he's pretty brutal when it comes to forcing players out. Marcus Rashford got forced out in January. Antony got sent on loan. We know what's happening with this whole bomb squad. Garnacho basically apparently got told he's not welcome back and he better hope he finds a new club, and he looks set to go to Chelsea. But more recently, Højlund has been forced out, dropped from matchday squads, not getting preseason minutes. Interesting comments from Ruben Amorim in regards to Sesko coming in. Højlund's recently learned he's got no place. And the next player that could be forced out is Onana. Now, it never felt like Onana was going to go in recent weeks. At the start of the window, there was a lot of reports that he's been told he can go, he can leave, but United couldn't find suitors. But it looks like Amorim is more and more open to moving Onana on and getting a goalkeeper. And could this be the end of Onana? There was rumours of a loan move to West Ham, but they have been debunked. We're going to talk about Onana. We're going to talk about Lammens, but we're going to talk about a big breakthrough United have got with Betis now in talks with United to do a permanent deal for Antony, or a loan with an obligation to buy. And there's pretty much an agreement there and reports of a deal being agreed, which is huge news. We're going to talk about the latest on Bruno to Saudi. There's more updates from now English sources about this Bruno to Saudi links, that Bruno could be open to going, but more likely next season than this season. But we're going to talk about it and if things can change. And of course, Mainoo, because I'm not going to lie, we've had about 100 stories on Mainoo today. Half the news says he wants to go. The other half of the news says that he doesn't want to go. We're going to go through it and actually just report what the credible sources have said and explain what the likely situation with Mainoo is. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup show. I do apologise, there was no live stream today, but I had a flight that was like 4 hours long, so hence why there's just 2 videos today, but we will be back with live streams tomorrow, because I feel like there's been a lot to talk about in the last 24 hours, but I just haven't had the time to go live. But we've got a 10-minute roundup here, and we're going to start with the Onana news. So Graham Bailey said quite a few things in regards to Andre Onana, but one of the main things he sort of said was basically this. He said that Onana understood why he was not called up to face Arsenal first game of the season, because let's be honest, he missed the whole pre-season, he'd just come back, he wasn't fully fit, he'd only been in training a few days. But because Bayern was pretty bad against Arsenal, Onana was quite shocked when he was left out for the Fulham game. He'd been back from injury a little bit longer, thought he might come in there. And, you know, Onana's position at the club seems to have changed in recent days. It looked like he was pretty safe. It looked like Lammens was going to come in to replace Bendir. Onana was going to stay. United obviously know it's hard to find suitors for Onana, and I think that's why he was sort of set to stay. But it's getting brutal. Now, there was actually some links to him as well by Graham Bailey to West Ham, but Romano has downplayed those links in regards to that. Now, I touched a little bit upon this in my video earlier today, and I don't know if you watched my video earlier today, but in my video earlier today, I discussed a little bit of what was said by Laurie Whitwell yesterday in his Talk of the Devil podcast, where he basically said, Laurie Whitwell, who's a very credible journalist, that United previously said they wouldn't spend big on a goalkeeper unless Onana was sold, and Onana was set to stay, but the club are now choosing to sign a new goalkeeper, which is kind of confusing, because the plan was not to spend big on a keeper unless Onana was going, but now we're going to spend, I wouldn't say we're spending big on a keeper. I think Donnarumma and Emi Martinez are the 30-40 million plus wages replacements for Andre Onana in that sense. That I think because of the wages on top of that, even if it might have been 10 million more fee, it could cost United 20 million more in total. So I don't necessarily think Lammens is expensive enough to be considered an Onana replacement. I've always got the impression that United were willing to bring in a keeper that was under 10-15 million. Obviously, Lammens looks like he's going to be 20 million to challenge Onana, but Onana is set to stay, but the club are choosing to move for a new goalkeeper, which is something that a few weeks ago they hadn't really planned. Now, Amorim, Ratcliffe and the hierarchy apparently agreed the other day, according to Laurie Whitwell, that their position needed addressing. So maybe suggestions there from Laurie Whitwell that Amorim and Ratcliffe and all of that have had a conversation and said, you know what, Onana, maybe not good enough in goal. Bendir, maybe not good enough in goal. I know the plan wasn't to get a goalkeeper this summer, but we need to address that. And look, could Onana be forced out? Not played against Fulham? Will be interesting to see what happens. I think if he doesn't play against Burnley, I think that's a big sign of, you know, the transfer window's coming to a close. Amorim's trying to push Onana out and push Onana into leaving. But talking of Onana, why could he be leaving? Because United want to bring in Lammens. Now, there's been reports of Galatasaray putting in a bigger bid for Lammens, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just fake news to try and get a bigger bid out of Manchester United. Lammens wants United are favourites to get him. And reliable sources have said United are very optimistic they can finalise the deal for Lammens in the next 2 days. A deal is expected to be done. My mindset still is Bayindir goes to Turkey because he wants regular minutes. And Lammens comes in to challenge Onana because Bayindir hasn't been good enough to really challenge Onana, whereas maybe Lammens could come in and challenge Onana, because I think getting rid of Onana will be difficult unless it's a loan deal. But we do know there's some clubs in Turkey interested in Bayindir who's potentially open to returning because of the World Cup. He wants to be a regular starter. So maybe that's something that could happen. Lammens comes in and he challenges Onana, or maybe Onana is forced out and it's Lammens and Bayindir. You never know. Continuing on, I want to talk about Antony because I've obviously been fed up with Betis trying to do a loan deal for Antony late in the window, and I've made it very clear United need to do a permanent for Antony. But reports are coming out suggesting it might be a permanent, and this is coming out from reliable sources, and it looks like United are finally getting the big breakthrough they wanted. So we've got 2 reports on Antony. Betis are in talks with United over a permanent deal for Antony. United made it clear in negotiations that they did not want to do another straight loan for the player. The big thing that's being said by Darmish is that Betis are in talks with United over a permanent deal for Antony. This is the first time reports have come out saying that they're now in talks over a permanent deal. Now, Betis could be giving us crap offers and might not materialise, but obviously reports now coming out that Betis are in talks with United to do a permanent deal for Antony. And more reports came out from incredible journalist Mike McGrath that Betis have reached an agreement in principle to sign Antony. Talks have been over a deal where the player would eventually move permanently after an initial loan. I think it's going to be a loan with an obligation where they have to buy him because Betis want to buy him next year, not this year. I think United are going to agree on a loan with an obligation, so it will be a permanent. So there's talks over a permanent deal, but there is now reports coming out that an agreement has been reached and that Antony's exit is agreed. So that's a big exit breakthrough if Antony's exit has not only been agreed, but been agreed on the permanent basis of it being a loan with an obligation. I want to touch upon other news as well coming out because obviously there's been a lot of speculation around Bruno going to Saudi. Now, reports have basically come out and said that Bruno is open to leaving Manchester United, but at the end of this season, so far he's rejected interest from Saudi, but he's open not this season to leave Manchester United, but the end of this season. So a lot of reports are coming out saying that Bruno isn't open to leaving now, but would be next summer. Chris Wheeler even touched upon this and said, it seems unlikely that Bruno will leave United this summer, but the situation could change if Al Ittihad make him a take it or leave it offer before the Saudi transfer window closes. So the feeling is Bruno's going to stay. He's going to explore his options next summer. He didn't want to go to Saudi. He's probably going to stay. But, they can't say 100% that Bruno's going to stay. If Al Ittihad given this huge, massive offer, Bruno could consider it. He could consider it, but I don't think Bruno's going anywhere. I think if he was going to go, he would have gone to Al Nassr much earlier in the window. But look, things can change, but I don't think Ruben Amorim's going to be forcing Bruno out like he's doing to Højlund and potentially Onana. Now, one player that I don't want to see go, and I think one player that if he does go, will probably turn a lot of people on Amorim is Kobbie Mainoo. And there's been a lot of conflicting reports on Kobbie Mainoo. And obviously, we've got 2 sides of the story. Jamie Jackson said Mainoo wants to leave Manchester United after being squeezed to the margins by Ruben Amorim. Jamie Jackson is a little bit like Samuel Luckhurst, where he is a little bit of, what's the word? I feel like sometimes his stories, he likes to make them more dramatic or for me, Jamie Jackson and Samuel Luckhurst, they sometimes like to make the most out of their stories, get clicks, drama, create a little bit of negativity. Chris Wheeler said that United are expected to make a decision on Mainoo's future within the next 48 hours and that Mainoo was growing frustrated. And we've got some reports coming out that Mainoo wants to go, he's open to leaving, he's frustrated. But, pardon me, Simon Stone and Fabrizio Romano, a journalist, I trust a lot more than the likes of Jamie Jackson. And they are saying that, while Mainoo isn't happy he's on the bench at the moment, there's no active talks for him to leave the club. The situation is calm. United are going to speak to him, explain the situation. Maybe there will be a meeting. And there is no suggestion of Kobbie Mainoo wanting to leave United right now. And this was said by reliable sources. Maybe Mainoo's put a few stories out, not Mainoo, Mainoo's agent is putting a few stories out to get him a new contract. Maybe Mainoo was just having doubts because he didn't get a minute in the opening 2 games. But I do think the media is probably jumping to conclusions because Mainoo hasn't played a single minute in the opening 2 games, and it's quite easy journalism to just say that he's leaving or wants to leave. And I think a lot of the journalists that are saying that are the type of journalists that do write the more negative stories on United. We even had reports from people like Sully, who were credible, saying that Mainoo's expected to stay despite interest. And look, there has been links to Atletico, Real Madrid. That doesn't surprise me. There has been links has been links to many top clubs for Mainoo today. But I can't see Mainoo going anywhere. And I saw a tweet from Lies earlier today saying, I'm sorry, but there's no way the club should even consider allowing Mainoo's departure because of a manager that might not be here in 10 games' time. The fact this is even a conversation is, it's ridiculous. I'm not saying that Amorim's going to be sacked in 10 games' time, but right now, look, if Amorim was winning every single game and we were mint and Mainoo wasn't a part of it, you kind of understand it. But the thing is, imagine we sell Mainoo and Amorim might be sacked in 10 games' time, because we can't say for sure Amorim will be here in 10 games' time because it's not been great so far. I want Amorim to succeed. I want him to do well, but Amorim does need to start winning quickly. And I think it would be crazy for them to sell Mainoo because he doesn't fit Amorim's plans when we don't know if Amorim will be here. Now, I hope Amorim will be here. I hope he succeeds, but you know my point. Thank you for watching. Bye.